It is 1:47 in the morning, and the only sound in my dorm room is the hum of the mini fridge. The light from my phone rests against my face, almost like it wants to burn the shape of RushTok into my skin. My thumb scrolls without asking my permission. Dresses in perfect shades, chants that sound rehearsed for years, smiling faces that know exactly what to do. I never learned the script. Watching them, I wonder if I'm the only one who feels like a stranger in a house built for belonging. On my desk, half hidden in the dark, is a mirror. Earlier tonight, I stood in front of it more times than I want to admit. Checked my hair, my outfit. Practiced the smile I thought might pass for effortless. Each time, the mirror returned the same quiet judgment. Not enough, not yet. I hate that mirrors never lie, even when you're begging them to. The phone glows on, feeding me the same message over and over. You are only worthy if we pick you. Belonging, it seems, is something to be earned, to be auditioned for. Sometimes I laugh at the jokes, the captions about being dropped, but even my laughter tastes bitter, like it doesn't belong to me. I want to put the phone down. I want to stop performing. But another part of me whispers, maybe if you learn their rhythm, maybe if you get the outfits right, maybe then you'll finally be chosen. The ache is steady, low in my chest, never loud enough to scream, but impossible to ignore. I don't want to admit how badly I crave someone who would say, stay even if you don't match. Stay even if you stumble. Stay even if you are just you. Tonight, though, exhaustion finally wins. I drop the phone face down on the blanket and stare at the ceiling, and my eyes catch the mirror, my hair messy, my face pale, no curated smile, just me, stripped of the costume. And suddenly, in that quiet, something rises up inside me, a thought that is older than I am. When I can no longer change the situation, I am challenged to change myself. Not into their costume, not into their audition, but into someone who can say, I am enough, here, in this room, alone, unseen. The mirror doesn't argue. For the first time, it doesn't feel like a judge. It feels like a witness. I start to wonder if belonging has been backwards all along. What if it doesn't begin with them choosing me? What if it begins with me choosing myself? I imagine a different kind of circle. Not coordinated dresses, not synchronized chants, just people showing up raw, unedited, unscripted. A space where you don't audition to be loved. You are loved, and then you grow. Maybe that space doesn't exist yet, but maybe I can help create it in small ways, online, offline, in whispered conversations with friends who also feel on the edge. Tomorrow, the pressure will still be there. The feed won't stop. The world won't stop offering conditional invitations. But I don't have to answer them. I can practice a different rule. I can put the phone down after 10 minutes instead of 2 hours. I can write one honest line in my journal. Today, I was enough. I can look into the mirror not to edit myself, but to say, you stayed. That's worthy. It sounds small, but maybe in a culture built on constant auditions, refusing to audition is the rebellion. And if I don't, if I keep chasing approval, if I keep pretending, I risk never meeting the self who was already enough, waiting all along. So tonight, before I sleep, I sit with the mirror. I don't adjust my hair. I don't fix my face. I just nod at the reflection like it's an old friend I almost forgot. My voice comes out softer than I expect. You don't have to win me. You already belong here. The mirror doesn't clap. It doesn't vote. It doesn't cheer. But it stays. And sometimes staying is all the proof you need. If I don't change, what will I lose that no one can give back? Maybe only this. The chance to meet myself without conditions. And tonight, Even in the silence, I think that is enough. It is strange how silence can feel heavier than noise. At 1:47 in the morning, the room is still, but inside my chest something pounds quietly, insistently, like a question without an answer. I scroll through video after video, and each one carries the same unspoken law. You are only worthy if we pick you. The words are never written in bold, yet they echo behind every synchronized smile, every matching dress, every chant that flows like water rehearsed for months. I laugh at some of it. Of course I laugh. Everyone laughs. The captions about being dropped, the jokes about running home to a sorority house as if it were a kingdom. But even my laughter feels rehearsed, as though I borrowed it from someone who actually belonged. It doesn't live in me. It slips out of my mouth and leaves a bitter taste behind, like swallowing pennies. The contradiction is what drains me most. I long to rest, to put down the weight of trying. I want to sit in a room without having to measure myself against anyone else. But the moment I consider it, another voice inside insists. Maybe if you practice longer, maybe if you learn the rhythm, maybe if you wear the right color, maybe then they'll finally let you in. It is cruel, because it doesn't sound like cruelty. It sounds like hope disguised as discipline. Sometimes I catch myself rehearsing without meaning to. In the bathroom mirror, I adjust my chin, soften my eyes, stretch my lips into a smile that looks borrowed. I practice the way I might wave or the tone I might use when meeting someone new. I look like a stranger auditioning for the role of myself, and the audition never ends. Each time, the mirror answers honestly, and its honesty hurts. Not yet, not enough. There are nights I picture belonging as a door, behind it, warmth and chatter. In front of it, me, knocking with hands that have started to bruise. The handle never turns, but I keep knocking anyway because silence feels more unbearable than rejection. If no one answers, at least the act of knocking tells me I still exist. And yet, the act of knocking exhausts me. My knuckles ache, my chest tightens. I wonder if the people behind the door even hear, or if they do and choose not to open it. Both possibilities sting. I crave something different. A place where there are no doors at all. A place where you don't have to audition. A space where someone might look me in the eyes and say, "Stay," even if you stumble, even if you wear the wrong color, even if you are simply you. But this world seems to have very few such rooms, and so I keep knocking on doors that were never built for me. The mirror on my desk becomes a witness to this cycle. It waits silently, not cruel, not kind, only faithful. Fidelity without tenderness can be its own form of weight. I sometimes want to smash it, to punish it for its unwavering honesty. Other times, I want to cover it, to pretend it never saw me trying. But most nights I simply let it stay uncovered. And in that choice, I let it see me fail again and again. Inside my head, the self-talk grows harsher. If you just smiled wider, if you just spoke softer, if you just hid the questions, if you just tried harder. The list of ifs multiplies like weeds, choking every thought of worth that tries to bloom. I know this is a trap, but knowledge doesn't untangle the snare. It only makes me more aware of how tightly I'm caught. There is a deeper fear that rarely names itself aloud, the fear that I might disappear from myself altogether. That one day, I will have rehearsed so many versions, performed so many roles, that I will not remember the sound of my true voice. The idea terrifies me more than rejection itself. Because rejection still leaves me with me. Losing myself leaves me with nothing. Some nights the thought becomes so loud that it drowns even the videos. I lie there, phone glowing in my hand, and realize I no longer know whether I'm scrolling to be entertained or scrolling to avoid the silence that keeps asking, "Who are you?" when no one is watching. The mirror never answers, but it never leaves either. And sometimes I wonder if that is its one kindness, the simple fact of staying, even when I have no strength left to stay for myself. I imagine others who belong easily, whose names are written down before they arrive, whose laughter sounds like it belongs to them. I envy them. I scold myself for envying them, and still I envy again. The loop turns endlessly, like a wheel that spins, not because it moves forward, but because it cannot stop. I wonder if I am fading, little by little, like a photograph left too long in the sun. Each day a little less sharp, a little less visible, until one day only a ghost outline remains. Perhaps this is what it means to perform endlessly, to lose color while trying to appear vibrant. The ache remains steady under my ribs, the same question beating like a second heart. Will I ever be enough? If I keep asking others to tell me so? I don't know. And the not knowing is its own kind of suffering. There comes a night when even exhaustion feels like mercy. My thumb slows against the glass until the feed freezes mid-laughter, mid-smile. Then the phone slips face down into the blanket, leaving me with nothing but the ceiling and my own unguarded breath. For a moment, the silence feels dangerous, too wide. But then my eyes fall on the mirror across the room. It reflects me in the simplest form: messy hair, bare skin, eyes tired and rimmed with sleeplessness. There are no colors coordinated, no chants rehearsed, no audience waiting to decide my value, just me, pale and ordinary in the half-dark. And to my surprise, I don't turn away. Something rises inside, not like a shout, but like a whisper that has waited a long time for the noise to stop. When I can no longer change the situation, I am challenged to change myself. The thought settles in my chest, heavy at first, then strangely light, as if someone had untied a knot I had been carrying for years. Change myself, not into their costume, not into their script, but into someone who dares to stay when the invitation never arrives, into someone who can look at this tired reflection and still say, "I am enough, even here, even now." The mirror doesn't argue. For the first time, it doesn't feel like a critic tallying my flaws. It feels like a witness, quiet and steadfast. And maybe that is what I have been searching for all along. Not applause, not selection, just someone, something to witness me as I am. I lie there and feel a strange calm spread through me. It doesn't erase the ache. The ache is still there, but it shifts. It is no longer the ache of hunger for approval. It is the ache of being alive, of wanting meaning, of wanting to love myself in a way that does not depend on someone else's door opening. I remember moments in my life when I felt most real, laughing too loudly with a friend who never asked me to soften, singing off-key in a car where no one cared, writing in a journal where no audience would judge the handwriting. Those moments never demanded a costume. They were clumsy and unpolished, but they were mine. They belonged to me in a way no audition ever could. The thought grows. What if belonging does not begin with being chosen? What if it begins with choosing to accept myself in this mirror, choosing to allow the ordinary face in the glass to be enough for tonight, choosing not to run from the silence that finally tells the truth? I notice the rhythm of my breathing, in, out, the simplest proof of life. Each breath arrives without a vote, without a test, without a condition. My lungs do not ask me to audition, they accept me as I am. Perhaps that is the lesson my body has been trying to teach me all along. I sit up, and the mirror catches me fully now. I lean closer, studying the person in the glass. There is no perfect angle, no hidden trick to make this face more worthy. And yet, looking at it long enough, I begin to see not flaws, but endurance. These eyes have stayed open through nights of doubt. This mouth has spoken kindness even when it trembled. This body has carried me to this very moment. Perhaps that is enough reason to believe it belongs here, I whisper softly, afraid the words might break. You are already enough. The room does not echo them back, but the silence feels warmer now, as if it received the words and held them close. The ache is not gone. It may never be gone, but it is no longer the enemy. It is a reminder that I care, that I long for meaning, that I still want life to be more than an endless scroll. The ache means I have not given up, and maybe that is what matters most, not whether I am chosen by them, but whether I choose to stay with myself. Whether I choose to hold my own gaze in this mirror and not look away. Tonight, I choose. What if belonging does not begin with their choice at all? What if it begins with mine? The thought repeats in me like a pulse, steady, patient. For so long, I believed that worth had to be handed down from others, like an acceptance letter slid under my door. But tonight, staring at my own reflection, I begin to wonder if I've been waiting in the wrong line all along. The mirror does not move, yet something in it shifts. It no longer seems to ask me to prove myself. It simply offers me back to myself. And in that quiet exchange, a strange possibility opens. Maybe growth doesn't come from auditioning, but from accepting. I imagine another kind of gathering. Not a house lined with perfect voices, not a field of coordinated colors, not chance timed to the second. Instead, a circle where each person enters carrying their own rawness. No matching outfits, no choreography, no scorecards, just presence, just the courage to arrive as you are. I close my eyes and the image grows more vivid. I see the circle in the dimly lit room, maybe someone's living room with blankets piled on the floor. People speak haltingly, sometimes not at all. One person admits they feel invisible. Another says they are afraid of failing everyone they love. There is no cheer, no applause, but also no rejection. Just nods, silence, and the kind of listening that feels like air finally reaching tired lungs. That imagined room feels more like home than any performance I have ever given. And though it might not exist yet, the thought occurs to me that maybe I could help build it. Not with grand declarations or movements, but in small ways. A late-night conversation with a friend who feels on the edge. A pause before judging someone's awkwardness. A willingness to hold space without fixing, without conditions. I realize belonging is not something to be given. It is something we can create, moment by moment. Perhaps meaning itself is like that. Not a treasure waiting to be found, but something stitched together each time we decide to be present for ourselves and for one another. The world will not stop asking for costumes. The algorithms will not stop flashing their auditions across my screen, but I can choose, here and now, to live by a different rhythm. I can choose to belong to myself before begging to belong to anyone else. It is not a dramatic victory. No one is watching. No one will post about it. Yet in this quiet shift, I feel something close to freedom. The kind of freedom that comes not from escape, but from endurance. From realizing that even if the world does not choose me, I can still choose how to live in it. I think of Carl Rogers' words that growth begins in acceptance, and I feel the paradox settle into me like steady breath. If I accept myself here, in this exact moment, then the possibility of becoming opens like a window I never noticed before. The mirror remains my anchor. It does not smile, it does not frown, but it reflects faithfully. And perhaps faithfulness is enough. Because faithfulness, unlike applause, does not vanish the moment the performance ends. I wonder how different life might feel if I stopped measuring it in votes, selections, and approvals. What if instead I measured it in presence? Did I show up for myself today? Did I stay when it would have been easier to abandon? Did I witness the small truths that asked to be seen? That feels like a more honest kind of belonging. And maybe meaning, at its core, is nothing more complicated than this. Choosing to stay with yourself long enough to notice that life is still happening, still asking, still offering moments of connection, even in the smallest gestures. For the first time in weeks, I feel something other than pressure. I feel possibility. Fragile? Yes, but real. The ache in my chest has not vanished, but it no longer feels like a wound to be hidden. It feels like proof that I care, that I still long, that I still believe belonging can be more than a costume. The silence around me deepens, no longer heavy, but alive. And I realize I am not waiting at a locked door anymore. I am standing inside a room I chose simply by deciding to stay. Tomorrow will not be easier just because tonight I whispered different words. The feed will still spin when I open my phone. The faces will still smile in unison. The world will still hand me its conditional invitations, each one wrapped in the same message. Change first, then maybe you'll belong. But I have decided something quiet tonight. I can practice a different rule. Maybe it begins small. 10 minutes instead of 2 hours on the scroll. 10 minutes where I put the phone face down and let silence breathe again. 10 minutes where my mind is not chained to the endless audition tape. It doesn't sound revolutionary, but perhaps rebellion rarely does. I think of the mirror, how it stayed when I felt unworthy. Tomorrow I can meet it differently. Not to adjust or to critique, but simply to nod at the person inside, the one who has endured more nights than anyone else will ever know. I can say, you stayed, and that is worthy. It feels strange, but even writing a single honest line in a journal could be a start. Something like, today, I was enough. No flourish, no filter, no apology. A record of survival. A reminder to the future me that even on days I doubted, I still stayed. The world is relentless in its demand for performance, where I see it in more than RushTok. I see it in the way Instagram sells me authenticity as though it were another brand. I see it in the quiet guilt of bed-rotting days where resting feels like a crime. I see it in TikToks about mental health that make confession into content, pain into entertainment. And I see it in the silence of workspaces where quiet quitting is less about laziness and more about the plea to be seen as human before being measured as output. We live in a culture of auditions, and sometimes the stage is not a stage at all but a classroom, a workplace, even a living room where family members expect us to play roles that no longer fit. To choose not to audition there, to simply exist without explanation, is an act of quiet defiance. The risk, of course, is real. If I stop performing, I may lose certain invitations. I may never walk through doors that only open for costumes. But the greater risk, the one that whispers beneath my ribs, is that I may lose myself entirely if I keep performing without pause. And losing myself would mean losing the only companion guaranteed to stay with me until the very end. So I practice in small ways, choosing to eat slowly without documenting it. choosing to step outside without headphones, letting the cold air sting me awake, choosing to send a message to a friend that says, "I thought of you," with no photo, no emoji, no performance attached, choosing to listen instead of preparing my next line. Each choice is ordinary, but each choice carves a path away from the endless stage. And the more I walk it, the more I see that meaning is not a grand discovery waiting at the horizon. Meaning is built from the tiny decisions not to abandon myself in the present moment. I know I will forget. I know there will be nights when the feed swallows me again, when the mirror feels like a critic, when I scroll past my own life as if it were someone else's. But even then, I want to remember what I felt tonight, that the act of staying is itself enough. That meaning is not found in applause, but in endurance, in presence, in the small rebellions that remind me I am still here. Maybe that is what adulthood truly is. Not arriving at a polished identity, not being chosen by the right crowd, but learning how to stay with yourself when every voice outside tells you to leave. And so I hold this truth like a fragile ember. If I do not stop chasing auditions, I may never meet the self who was already waiting for me. And if I can stay, even just for 1 minute longer than I thought possible, maybe that is where real belonging begins. Tonight, before sleep finds me, I will sit once more with the mirror. Not to measure angles, not to check flaws, not to polish myself into something worthy. I will sit simply to look, to meet my own eyes as if greeting a companion I once ignored. It feels strange, even a little foolish to nod at my reflection as if it were a friend. But then I think, perhaps this is the friendship I have most neglected, the one that cannot leave. The one that has followed me silently from room to room, year to year. So I whisper, barely audible in the still air, "You don't have to win me. You already belong here." The mirror, of course, does not clap. It does not vote. It does not smile back or cheer, but it stays. It has always stayed. And maybe staying is the truest proof there is. I used to think change required thunder and applause, a turning point dramatic enough to rewrite a life. But I am learning that sometimes change begins in gestures so small they almost vanish. A whispered word in a quiet room, a breath taken without apology, a moment of stillness where the world's demands cannot intrude. I cannot promise myself that tomorrow I won't scroll again, that the ache won't return, that I won't feel the tug of the endless audition, but I can promise this, that I will try each day to grant myself one small act of unconditional belonging, a look in the mirror without judgment, a line in a journal without apology, a choice to stay, even when leaving myself would be easier. Perhaps this is all any of us can do. Practice presence in fragments, build meaning from small acts, honor the simple fact that we exist, even when no one claps. If I don't change, what will I lose that no one can give back? The answer comes to me gently now. I will lose the chance to meet myself without condition. And that, more than any rejection, would be the deepest loss. So I leave this thought with you, whoever you are, wherever this finds you. Before you sleep tonight, take a moment with whatever mirror or reflection you have, not to fix, not to critique, but to see. To greet yourself as you would a weary traveler who has come a long way. Say one line aloud if you dare. You already belong here. It may feel awkward. It may feel hollow the first time, but say it anyway. The mirror will not argue, will not withdraw. It will simply stay. And perhaps in that stillness, you will begin to feel what I am learning tonight, that staying is not failure, it is faith. We are all carrying secret auditions, hoping someone will give us a part. But what if the role we are waiting for is already written in us, waiting for us to accept it? What if the only audience that truly matters is the one staring back through the glass, weary but unbroken? The mirror will stay. And so can you.